Greetings! In this video I'll be painting a Sternguard Veteran of the Bloodraven's First Company. One of the first requests I've received was for this chapter, though as it's one of my most favourite chapters, I wanted to get it right. The model here is from the same set as my Size of the Emperor video. The heavy bolt pistol is from the Assault Intercessors kit, the power sword is from the current Sternguard Veterans kit, and I'm not sure which kit the helmet and the right pauldron are from. Like most of my videos, the pauldron here is 3D printed. I'll talk more about this later in the video. I primed the assembled model black through my airbrush, though a rattle can spray primer works just as well. Eager to get into the painting, I started with base coating Mephiston red all over the model. Well, until I remembered that I planned to use Khorne red instead. No matter, Khorne red was applied all over the model, taking a few thinned coats to get a smoother finish. An edge highlight followed with Evil Sunz Scarlet. Khorne red is a fairly dark red, so I needed to bump up the colour a fair bit. The Bloodravens have a long history, though the nature of their highly customisable colour schemes in the video games, and the inconsistent references since, leaves me a bit confused. In the background here is an army from Rick Turner, shown in the July 2019 issue of White Dwarf. I've used these images to help discern how different positions could be painted, be it Sergeant, Veteran, Ancient, Lieutenant, or Captain. I've decided to mix multiple references here. I've chosen to paint the helmet as a standard Codex Veteran with a white helmet, and displaying the company on the right knee pad, in this case white for the first company. I will however be using a bone colour instead of white, matching the army shown in the background. Another point I wanted to bring up is the chapter Armorial. I based my 3D printed model off of the 2004 How to Paint Space Marines reference, not remembering that there's an alternative one until I found it during editing. I think I prefer the alternate one, but it can be nice to have a mix of official badges in your army. Onto the secondary colour now. Zandri dust was applied to all the bone coloured bits. The pauldron, the cloth, the helmet, the right knee pad to denote first company, the scroll on the greave, and the handle of the sword. To highlight the Zandri dust, I layered a Shabti bone over the raised details, as well as attempting that shaded pauldron style often seen in official GW miniatures. A final highlight of Screaming Skull was applied, primarily as an edge highlight, and to add additional emphasis to the shoulder pads. I had forgotten to paint the scroll on the greave throughout that, so I painted that in off camera to catch up. Next, I blocked in all the black details with Abaddon black. This will serve as a basis for highlighting later. For the eye lenses I went with Warpstone Glow as a base coat. I've noticed this is a thin paint, so 2 or 3 coats were needed here. Moot Green followed shortly after, dotting in the middle of the eyes for a simple eye lens paint job. Thondia Brown was used for the first coat on the book and the leather details. I felt the warmer Thondia Brown versus the cooler Rhinox hide would complement the red armour here. A messy highlight with Scrag Brown, then Deathclaw Brown followed. I tried to break up the surface, attempting to make it look less smooth. Scratches and chips, you know. knowing that I'd make mistakes with the bone colours. I saved the final highlight of the red armour till now. Using Wild Rider Red, I painted the most prominent edges, dotting some corners and adding a few tiny scratches. I think this brings the warmth of the Blood Raven scheme out nicely. For the metal parts I used Iron Warriors. I figured going a darker silver would emphasise the rest of the model. It's a nice colour too, so it works out nicely. For the few gold details, I used Retributor armour, the reliquary on his leg, the book protectors, the buckle, the sword guard and pommel, the skull and the hanging crux, and the laurels on his helmet were all painted in. At this point I also painted in the blood drop on the armorial, with Evil Sunz Scarlet. Now for highlighting the black details. I started with Mechanicus Standard Grey, doing about 3/4 of the raised surfaces. This includes the Imperialis, the crux on the pauldron trim itself, and the heavy bolt pistol. I followed that with Dawnstone, doing half of the raised surfaces. I go careful at the start of each of these layers, making sure it's not too strong before doing it a bit quicker later. A final highlight was done with Administratum Grey, this time over a single quarter of the raised bits. 4 colours broken down into 4 quarters works nicely to do a strong highlight like this. Next I switched to Seraphim Sepia to apply a wash over the gold details. This will make the gold look both warmer and a bit more aged. Back to Abaddon black here for the scroll on the left greave. I decided to write Honour here. Came out really clear, so that's a bonus. Once I get better at painting clear text, and its positioning, I'll try fancier fonts. To highlight the gold I used Liberator gold. This was primarily an edge highlight, helping to reduce the darkness that the Seraphim Sepia had added. Now for something completely unplanned and somehow really good. I used Temple Guard Blue to paint in the power nodule on the power sword, as well as doing some lightning arcing from it along the blade. It looks pretty rough right now, but the next colour fixes that. blue horror followed, doing small dots and dashes throughout the lightning effect. This seems to give it a nice electrical appearance, and I'm very happy with this. I did a highlight of Ironbreaker over the silver details. I think this was fairly ineffective, but it does help certain spots shine a tiny bit more. It's not overpowering, so I guess that's a good thing. Finally, an enamel pin wash was applied. This is used to add depth to the panel lines, whilst also tying in the shading all over the miniature. After I was happy with this light application, I left it to cure for a while. I then did my basing method and applied an ultramatte varnish. And here we have it! Sternguard Veteran of the Bloodraven's first company. What can I say? I really like it. I think the red is pretty close to the older examples of the chapter. I wanted to avoid making them look like blood angels, like many of the more recent colour plates seem to be doing. The power sword came out excellent. I've tried this style in the past, but this definitely beats my best attempt at it. I've been fairly ill this past 2 weeks. I'm currently 1 week ahead of the video releases, but this one took me ages to get together. A lot of 5-minute recordings here and there, and a general lack of cohesion. I wanted this guy to be done properly, and even after all the issues I had getting the video together, I think it came out alright. Hopefully you guys like the result. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I tried a different method for painting the pauldrons here. Having highlights inside the trim seems a bit weird to me, but it does add some more definition to an otherwise plain piece. Let me know what you think of this style. As I mentioned at the start of this video, this chapter was requested by 2 of you guys. I hope you're happy with the result. I am, though I feel I could probably give them another go in the future. If you guys have any questions or requests of your own, put them in the comments. Anyway, hope you stick around for the next one.